Very good morning and welcome to Oma Savings Bank's half-year results presentation webcast. My name is Pirjetta Soikkeli and I'm Head of Communications at Oma Savings Bank. Today we will start the event with the presentation of our CEO, Karri Alameri. After that, we will continue with the Q&A session. Please remember to dial into the telephone conference if you wish to ask questions. With that, Karri, please welcome on stage.
Good morning and welcome to our half-year financial results presentation. Our results for January-June were in line with our expectations. We continued to execute the strategy of growth we announced in January and at the same time systematically advancing our process efficiencies initiatives as planned. Comparable profit before tax remained at the previous year's level, amounting to 23.6 million euros. The volume of new loans granted during January to June increased by nearly 42% compared with the corresponding period, while net fee and commission income grew by approximately 7%. Impairment losses on financial assets decreased. However, the weak state of Finnish economy earlier this year, and particularly the subdued real estate market, continue to be reflected in the level of non-performing exposures. Our capital adequacy has continued to strengthen, and our own funds remain well above the requirements for total own funds. In my view, the public tender offer announced in early July by S-Bank for OmaSP's entire share capital demonstrates the market's confidence in our strategy and business development, as well as the long-term commitment of our employees. Our business operations will continue as normal for the time being. Let's now take a closer look at our performance in the first half of the year. Let's start with income. Comparable operating income amounting to 102.2 million euros in January to June, a decline of approximately 14% compared with the previous year. In Q2, comparable operating income was 52 million euros, which is approximately 12% lower than a year earlier. Net interest income decreased by approximately 21% during the first half to 72.1 million euros. The decline in net interest income was mainly attributable to relatively low market interest rates and the contraction of the loan portfolio. It is important to note that the decline in net interest income has leveled off, with the net interest income in Q2 remaining broadly in line with Q1. During January to June, the average margin of the loan portfolio remained largely unchanged. Let's now look at the development of the fee income. Net fee income and commission income decreased by approximately 7% during the reporting period, amounting to 26.6 million euros in January to June and 13.2 million in the second quarter. In January to June, fee income from cards and payment services increased by more than 8% compared with the corresponding period and amounted to 19.3 million euros, while fund management fees increased by approximately 8% year-on-year to 4.3 million. However, fee income from lending declined by 6.6% to 4.4 million. Having said that, fee incomes from intermediary businesses such as commission on loan protection insurance increased by 6% to 1.4 million euros. Then let's now turn to expenses. Comparable operating expenses increased to 63.2 million euros during January to June. Personnel expenses increased by approximately 11% to 32.9 million. At the end of the reporting period, we had 662 employees, 77 of whom are on fixed-term contracts, primarily summer trainees. In Q2, expenses increased by 16.7% compared with the corresponding period, the period in previous year, reaching 36 million euros. The increase was primarily attributable to an administrative penalty of 0.4 million euros imposed by the Finnish Financial Supervisory Authority for deficiencies related to the maintenance of insider lists during years 2021 and 2022. We also made an expense provision of 2.5 million euros relating to potential administrative sanction concerning credit risk management, governance and control systems, as well as reporting of large exposures during the period from December 2022 to February 2025. If we take a look at the loans, the volume of new loans granted during the first half increased by nearly 42% compared with the corresponding period, amounting to 459 million euros. During the second quarter, the volume of new loans granted increased by nearly 7% compared with the previous quarter. The loan portfolio before expected credit losses remained broadly at the level of the previous quarter. At the end of June, the total loan portfolio amounted to 5.8 billion euros. The average size of loan granted over the past 12 months increased to approximately 223,000 euros. The residential mortgage portfolio declined by approximately 2% over the past 12 months, and the business customer loan portfolio by approximately 11%. These are mainly driven by the generally weak economic conditions earlier this year and the measures taken in the controlled winding down portfolio. At the end of June, the controlled winding down portfolio amounted to 170 million euros. Let's now turn to the non-performing exposures. The weak state of the Finnish economy earlier this year, and particularly the subdued real estate market, was reflected in the level of non-performing exposures, especially in the older loan portfolio. The increase in non-performing exposures was primarily among retail customers and companies operating in the real estate sector. At the end of June, non-performing exposures amounted to 548 million euros, which represents 9.4% of the total loan portfolio. The increase was particularly concentrated among retail customers. At the same time, the volume of new non-performing loans has been declining. For other non-performing loans, however, collection processes continue to take a long time, particularly due to the lengthy realization periods for real estate collateral. In line with the plan we adopted at the end of 2025, we are continuing with our systematic efforts to reduce non-performing loans. This year, we are particularly focusing on enhancing early-stage collection measures while continuously evaluating opportunities to reduce non-performing exposures through various restructuring arrangements. Then we take a look on impairment losses on financial assets. Net impairment losses on financial assets decreased during January to June compared with the corresponding period, amounting to 14.9 million euros, of which 7.5 million was recognized in second quarter. During the first half of the year, expected credit losses decreased compared with the corresponding period, amounting to 13.7 million euros. During the second quarter, expected credit losses of 6.6 million were recognized, the majority of which related to business customers. Net realized credit losses decreased compared with the corresponding period and amounted to 1.2 million euros during January-June, compared with 3.9 million a year earlier. OmaSP's financial position remains strong. Our capital adequacy continued to strengthen during the second quarter. At the end of June, the total capital ratio stood at 19.4% and the accumulated equity amounting to 623 million euros. Risk-weighted assets declined to below 3 billion euros, primarily as a result of the reduction in total exposures. The group's own funds amounted to 582 million euros, exceeding the total own funds requirement by 170 million euros. Our capital adequacy and liquidity position therefore remain very strong. In January, we introduced our updated strategy and financial targets for the period 2026-2029. This slide provides an overview of our progress against those financial targets at the end of June. As I have noted before, our most demanding target is to achieve a comparable return of equity of over 14%. Reaching this target requires a combination of actions across the bank. Looking ahead to the end of the strategy period in 2029, achieving these targets will primarily require us to improve earnings with a particular focus on accelerating the growth of fee and commission income, reduce costs, and optimize our capital allocation. As of the end of June, cost growth remains to be the main factor putting pressure on our return on equity. In terms of our other financial targets, we are progressing as planned. The outlook for the financial year remains unchanged. However, we specified the assumptions as the tender offer announced in early July for all shares in the company may affect the company's business operations. While the growth in the company's cost base has slowed compared with the previous financial year, the tender offer process may give rise to additional unforeseen expenses. We are expecting comparable profit before taxes for 2026 to decline slightly compared with the previous year. On July 9th, S-Pankki announced a cash tender offer to acquire all shares in OmaSP. According to S-Bank, the combination of the two companies would create a larger and a more competitive banking group with enhanced capabilities to provide high-quality services to its customers while meeting the banking sector's increasing regulatory and technological requirements. The board of directors of OmaSP recommends that the company's shareholders accept the offer. The offer price is 17 euros 20 per share, representing a premium of 47% over the closing price on July 8th. Shareholders representing approximately 59.9% of the shares in OmaSP have already irrevocably undertaken to accept the tender offer. The tender offer is currently expected to be completed during the first quarter of 2026. To conclude, I would like to highlight the following. In line with our strategy, we have achieved broad-based growth in net fee and commission income, driven in particular by higher fund management fees, stronger fee income from cards and payment services, and we will continue our systematic efforts to increase the fee income and deepen customer relationships across households and growing businesses. The volume of new lending increased significantly. We are continuing to work systematically to grow our market share in our selected customer segments. Impairment losses decreased, although the weak economic environment earlier this year was reflected in non-performing exposures. We will continue our efforts to reduce non-performing loans in accordance with our plan. The tender offer announced by S-Bank on 9th July is currently expected to be completed during the fourth quarter of 2026. OmaSP's business operations are continuing as normal for the time being. We continue to serve our customers just as before, with a personal approach and a professional expertise.
Thank you, Karri. We will now move on to the Q&A session. And I would like to remind you, please remember to dial in to the telephone conference to ask questions. So, operator, we are now ready to take the questions.
If you wish to ask a question, please dial pound key 5 on your telephone keypad to enter the queue. If you wish to withdraw your question, please dial pound key 6 on your telephone keypad. There are no questions at this time, so I hand the conference back to the speakers for any closing comments.
All right. Sorry. Yes. I would like to thank our audience for being here with us today, and also remind you that we will release our third quarter interim report on 5th of November, and we look forward to you joining us again then. And we are here for you. Would you have any further questions, please revert to us. Thank you for being with us today. Bye now.
Bye.